Today, we are going to see Daniel Park, a fat, disgusting loner who is tortured by all his classmates for being the ugliest pig in school. One day he woke up and he had the perfect body, the hottest face, and rock-hard abs. Before he knew it, he had become the most handsome guy in school, captivating girls with his BTS-like charm. However, before this change occurred, Daniel lived as a slave to the ruthless tyrant Taesong. This is Elablo, enjoy till the end. One day, Daniel noticed Taesong and his staff crawling on the bathroom floor while smoking cheap cigarettes. They despised him because he was short and overweight and ordered him to dance around like a circus animal. Despite Daniel's efforts, he was unable to satisfy the bullies, who repeatedly slammed him in the face to a pulp. At home, Daniel took out his anger on his mother, blaming her mother for his misery and her weight gain. Although he begged to be transferred to another school, financial constraints made this not possible, and as a result, he endured years of abuse. Daniel was fed up with the abuse and in a fit of frustration, punched his kitchen wall and fled to his room. The next day at school, Daniel competes against Taesong and his friends, making a bet to see who can hit him the hardest. A professional soccer player aimed the ball at Daniel's face, causing him to fall to the ground. Realizing Daniel's mistake, Taesong punches him in the stomach, leaving Daniel gasping for air. When Taesong tried to attack again, Daniel's mother intervened and scolded Taesong for hurting her son. Embarrassed by the scene, Danielle lashed out at her mother, who later regretted her lashing out and apologized after returning to her home. His mother realized the seriousness of his bullying and promised to transfer him to a new school. Although he was unable to accompany her due to his new job, he vowed to support her in any way he could. These words touched Daniel's heart and inspired him to do more to care for his mother in the future. Daniel imagined a new start when he moved into a new apartment. While exploring the city, he happens to meet a girl named Mai Jin. When her boyfriend Jin Seon showed up, he smiled shyly. Her friends were convinced that Daniel was a lonely loser who was going after her. He challenges him to a street fight and Daniel decides to stand up for himself in this new city. He clenched his fist and prepared to fight, but before he could move, Jin Seon gave him a hard punch to the face, knocking him to the ground. When Daniel got up and tried to run, Jin Seon grabbed him by the hair and punched him again. Hard. People stopped and took pictures of how badly he was beaten. Even after Mai Jin begged, the jinxion continued until Daniel was knocked unconscious, completely beaten and stripped of his dignity. Daniel returned to his apartment with no pride and cried when he saw evidence of his beating on the internet. He wonders why he was born with such bad luck and begins to doubt whether his life will ever get better. Daniel woke up in the middle of the night and his mood immediately changed. It was as if he was on a higher level. After stumbling into his bathroom, he is shocked to see his reflection in the mirror. Somehow, during his sleep, his spirit was transferred to the body of a tall, handsome demigod. However, his original body was still asleep on the bedroom floor. He tried to see if he was still alive, but quickly switched it back. At first, he thought this was all a dream, but to his surprise, he saw the body of the demigod lying right next to him. When he was wondering whether to call the police for help, he remembered the torture he had undergone in his previous body and quickly changed his mind. Daniel decides to atone for his past with this new body and arrives at his new school the next morning, impressing everyone with his good looks. When he entered the class and introduced himself, all the girls were immediately interested. He takes a seat in the back and is shocked to see that the girl from yesterday and her aggressive boyfriend are among his new classmates. Han Newell tried to seduce him, but Meijin found him charming. However, the teacher interrupted and asked Hanul to return to her seat. She follows Daniel to the cafeteria, where he tells her that he decided to major in fashion due to her poor grades at her previous school. However, when Han Newell asked, he lied and said that he enjoyed fashion. During class, Daniel lost his concentration due to the stress of the previous day and fell asleep in the middle of the lecture. He suddenly returns to his original body and panics, afraid of being discovered. His attempts to force himself to sleep again failed. Luckily, Hanul surprises him and says class is over, saving him from his nightmare. That night, he attempts to use his demigod charm to secure a part-time job at a local supermarket. He manages to get rid of his fat personality by planning to put his former body to work at night and impressing his manager with his knowledge of ice cream flavors while maintaining an attractive appearance during the day. I persuaded you. He made a living by working the night shift for the first time. A few minutes later, Jingxing and his staff arrived at the store. When Jingxing discovered Daniel's fat personality, he became enraged and attacked him violently, further humiliating him. Unable to tolerate any more insults directed at him and his mother, Daniel intervenes and tells him to stop using fat people's mothers as jokes. Jingxing was not willing to obey his new child's orders, so he rose up and challenged him to a fight. He threw the first punch, but was quickly stopped by another classmate, Yi Yul. who was against fighting. However, Jinxing broke free from his grip and threw another punch in Daniel's direction. However, this time Daniel used his demigod abilities and dodged his second punch along with everyone else Jinxing threw at him. Daniel continued to dodge until Jinxing shoved him against a locker, fatally wounding him in the face. But instead of dodging this time, Daniel firmly blocked the attack, surprising everyone in the class. He tried to throw more punches, but in that moment Daniel remembered all the times he had been bullied. He poured all his energy into one powerful punch, hitting Jinxing in the stomach and forcing him to surrender. The crowd of students roared with excitement and cheered his victory. News of his knockout blow reached other department heads, who became excited and determined to defeat him. Later that night, a strange boy named Gino quietly enters the store and picks up a pack of licorice sticks. Daniel senses that something is wrong, but when he invites Gino to the checkout counter, the boy runs out of the building. Daniel went after him, aware of the consequences he could face if his superiors found out about this incident. When he finally reaches the alley, he sees Jinxing's friends and realizes that Jinho is also just a victim of bullying. He asked them to pay for the pack of cigarettes, but everyone laughed at him. Hyundai grabbed him by the shoulders and threatened to post more embarrassing photos online if he continued to demand payment. When Hyundai was about to fight Gino, a man named Vasco barged in and grabbed Hyundai by the neck. Vasco questioned his actions and cried out from the depths of his soul. Hyundai begs the boys to be released, and he promises never to trouble them again. After they left, Vasco advised Daniel and Gino to begin training to improve their fighting ability. The next day, Vasco went to the school cafeteria to meet the new student everyone was talking about. Vasco realizes that Daniel is one of the school's biggest bullies and decides to teach him a lesson. He forces Daniel into a chair, but to everyone's surprise, Daniel grabs his hand and lets go of Vasco's shoulders. Vasco attempts to attack, but Bam intervenes and apologizes to Daniel while taking Vasco away. When Bam's friends become angry at Bum's intervention, he points to the redness on Vasco's wrist and says that Vasco was the one who lost consciousness. Last night's three tyrants ran up to Daniel, showering him with praise and begging him to be friends. It was the first time in his life that he felt like someone wanted to be his friend. Hanel invites him to have a fun night drinking grape juice, so Daniel decides to give it a try. That night, Daniel joins Hyundai and his company at a local bar. However, when Jinxing arrives, Daniel feels unwell and decides to drink a lot. Hanul noticed that Daniel was wearing an oversized shirt and asked why, but Daniel was determined to keep his secret a secret, so he lied and said it belonged to his roommate, Tai. After a few minutes, Hyendu begins to tease the victims he bullied and tries to show Hanul the photos of the victims on her phone. Daniel grabbed it and crushed it in her hand, warning her never to bully others. After drinking too much grape juice, he collapses on the table and realizes that he accidentally woke up in his own disgusting body. He immediately runs to the grape juice party and lies to everyone that he is just taking Daniel home on an errand. The next day, Daniel came home from school to find his mother waiting for him. She didn't recognize him, so he introduced himself as Daniel's friend, but she wanted to know more about him. They went to eat at a nice restaurant, where Daniel's presence attracted everyone's attention. After talking about her life, she picks up trash cans and reveals to Daniel that she collects trash to earn money to send Daniel to school. Upon her departure, she offers him money, which he initially refuses but eventually accepts. When Vasco saw Daniel stealing money, he became very angry at Daniel for taking advantage of the old woman. Later that day, he confronted Daniel with the intention of teaching him a lesson. Despite Daniel's attempts to clarify the situation, Vasco lunged and attacked. Daniel easily dodged the attack, but Vasco continued to punch and kick, which Daniel narrowly avoided. One of Vasco's punches hits Daniel in the face, causing Daniel to wonder why he is being attacked. Vasco demands a refund, but Daniel refuses, dodging further kicks. Daniel remembered the move he learned from Jasir and deftly dodged Vasco's punch. He accurately delivered a powerful blow with his elbow, knocking Vasco unconscious.